got a dead man walking here. Dead man walking.
The Green Mile isn't just a story about miracles and injustice. It's a film where every detail was crafted with surgical precision. And today I'm going to reveal 10 facts that even diehard fans may have missed. This movie operates like a spiritual scalpel, cutting away your assumptions about justice, faith, and mercy until you're left bleeding empathy for everyone involved. 10 facts that expose how this masterpiece was engineered to haunt you forever. Fact 1. The real Green Mile was based on death row. Stephen King based The Green Mile on the actual final walk that death row inmates take to their execution. The term Green Mile comes from the green linoleum floor that prisoners walked on at Cold Mountain Penitentiary, which King modeled after multiple facilities. What's chilling is that King spent months researching actual execution procedures, interviewing former guards, and studying the psychological toll on both inmates and staff. King discovered that many guards developed the same kind of emotional numbness that Paul Edgecombe struggles with throughout the film. Frank Darabont, the director, insisted on painting the actual floor green during filming and made the cast walk it repeatedly to understand the weight of that final journey. Tom Hanks later said those walks were some of the most emotionally draining moments of his career, even during rehearsals. Fact 2. Michael Clarke Duncan's transformation wasn't just physical. Everyone knows Michael Clarke Duncan was physically imposing as John Coffey, but what fans don't realize is that his voice was completely transformed for the role. Duncan naturally had a much higher, softer speaking voice, almost childlike. He spent months working with a voice coach to develop Coffey's deep, resonant tone that became iconic. The irony? Duncan's real personality was incredibly similar to his character, gentle, kind, and deeply spiritual. Duncan was so method in his approach that he would stay in character between takes, often comforting other actors who became emotional during filming. Tom Hanks revealed that Duncan would frequently check on him during the more intense scenes, asking in that same gentle voice if he was okay. Sadly, Duncan passed away in 2012, but his co-stars still speak about how his genuine kindness made John Coffey's supernatural compassion feel absolutely real. Fact 3. The mouse screen time increased. Mr. Jingles wasn't just one mouse. He was actually 15 different trained mice, each with specific skills. The production team spent over $50,000 training these mice for various tricks, making them some of the highest-paid animal actors in film history. But here's what's fascinating. Stephen King originally wrote Dell's pet as a much smaller part of the story. It was Frank Darabont who expanded the mouse's role, believing it represented hope and innocence in this dark world. The most incredible detail about Mr. Jingles is that his survival at the end may be plausible. Mice exposed to John Coffey's healing power would theoretically have extended lifespans, and the film's timeline actually works out mathematically. Mr. Jingles was roughly 64 years old, ancient for a mouse, but not impossible with supernatural intervention. Fact 4. The electric chair scene used execution methods. The horrific, botched execution of Edouard Delacroix wasn't just dramatic fiction. It was based on actual documented execution failures. Frank Darabont researched actual cases where wet sponges weren't used, causing prisoners to essentially cook alive rather than die quickly. The scene is so medically accurate that several medical professionals have praised its depiction of what actually happens during a botched electrocution. What makes this even more disturbing is that the special effects team consulted with former executioners to ensure authenticity. They learned that the smell of burning flesh was often the most traumatic part for witnesses, which is why Paul Edgecombe's reaction focuses so heavily on the sensory horror. The actor playing Dell, Michael Jeter, was so affected by filming this scene that he required counseling afterward. The production team had to bring in therapists for several cast members who struggled with the emotional weight of depicting such realistic brutality. Fact 5. Visual tricks made Duncan tower over everyone despite his real height. Michael Clarke Duncan stood at 6 feet 5 inches and weighed 315 pounds during filming, but the filmmakers needed John Coffey to appear much more imposing than even Duncan's impressive natural size. What's shocking is that Duncan was only fractionally taller than his co-star David Morse and was actually shorter than James Cromwell, who played the warden. Yet on screen, Coffey appears to tower over everyone like a gentle giant from another world. The production team achieved this through a combination of brilliant practical effects and camera trickery. The most ingenious technique was creating specially made smaller props for Duncan's scenes, including making his prison cell bed shorter than the others and using a smaller electric chair specifically for his execution scene. The filmmakers also employed strategic camera angles, perspective shots, and practical effects to emphasize Coffey's larger-than-life presence. These are the same techniques used to make shorter actors like Tom Cruise appear taller, but in reverse. Everything around Duncan was scaled down to make him appear superhuman. Fact 6. John Coffey's healing method was based on ancient medical practices. What many viewers don't realize is that John Coffey's supernatural healing technique wasn't invented by Stephen King. It's based on actual documented healing methods from various cultures throughout history. Coffey's hand placements, the light from his mouth, and the transfer of illness to insects reflect ancient shamanic practices, Reiki healing, and some forms of faith healing studied by medical researchers. King researched these practices to ground Coffey's abilities in reality. Coffey's healing aligns with principles that some alternative practitioners claim work today. The light from his mouth symbolizes the transfer of life force, or qi, believed by many Eastern traditions to heal ailments. When he absorbs and expels illness through insects, it echoes traditional healing concepts of removing negative energy. Although modern medicine doesn't validate these practices, the film's portrayal resonates with alternative medicine, and some practitioners have used scenes from The Green Mile to illustrate their techniques. Fact number 7. The Shaquille O'Neal almost casting. Casting directors often chase surprising choices, and The Green Mile almost featured one of basketball's biggest stars. Shaquille O'Neal was actually offered the role of John Coffey, but turned it down. At 7 feet 1 inch, and with a gentle public persona despite his intimidating size, Shaq could have brought his own interpretation to the character. O'Neal's decision to pass was probably the right choice for both him and the film. Michael Clark Duncan brought a vulnerability and acting technique that came from years of studying the craft, not just physical presence. Fact 8. Percy's squeaky shoes were an accident kept in the film. When Doug Hutchison put on his costume to play Percy, it was discovered that the shoes he wore gave off a noticeable and irritating squeak whenever he walked. Rather than switch them out for a new pair, Frank Darabont found that they were the perfect shoes for the character. The director realized the annoying sound perfectly matched Percy Wetmore's grating personality and decided to keep it as an integral part of the character, turning what could have been a wardrobe malfunction into a brilliant character detail that enhanced Percy's presence as the film's most despised antagonist. Fact 9. The film's sound design contains hidden messages. The Green Mile sound design uses specific frequencies to evoke emotional responses. During execution scenes, electrical humming induces physical discomfort, while John Coffey's breathing during healing moments incorporates subsonic frequencies to create calmness. Mr. Jingle's movements blend actual mouse sounds with frequencies associated with infants, eliciting a protective instinct in viewers. The footsteps on the Green Mile feature reverb that adds a sense of finality, and dialogue is delivered with rhythms that mimic funeral dirges. Thomas Newman's score enhances these elements, creating an almost hypnotic and sacred viewing experience. Fact 10. Paul's eternal punishment is foreshadowed from the very first scene. The movie's opening scene isn't just exposition. It's a masterclass in foreshadowing Paul's curse that most viewers completely miss. When we first see elderly Paul in 1999 at age 108, watching Top Hat on television, he becomes emotional and walks away when the dancers appear on screen. This reaction seems random until you understand the deeper meaning. Paul can no longer bear to watch people enjoying life because he's been cursed to outlive everyone he's ever loved. The dancing represents the joy of human connection that has been permanently stripped from his existence. The mathematical precision is haunting. Paul was 44 in 1935 when John Coffey was executed, making him 108 in 1999, which means he's lived 64 extra years beyond a normal lifespan. But here's the detail that will destroy you. Throughout the entire film, Paul is constantly shown watching others live their lives while he remains an observer. Notice how he watches Dell with Mr. Jingles, watches John's healing sessions, watches executions. He's always the witness, never the participant. The film reveals this is his eternal punishment from God for allowing one of his true miracles to be executed. These 10 facts reveal that the Green Mile is a carefully constructed spiritual experience designed to make you question justice, faith, and the cost of bearing witness to truth. It was crafted to create something that feels less like a movie and more like a revelation. Which of these facts shocked you the most? Did any of them change how you see the film? Let me know in the comments below. Make sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell.